Lance Armstrong, quite possibly the worst human being ever. Now, I realize this is a little bit off topic. Usually, I'm just talking about either politics or God or some such thing. Um, but today, I want to talk about Lance Armstrong. He, at one point in his life, considered himself to be an atheist, so it's at least marginally relevant. Or a gaytheist, as I like to call them. Now, Lance Armstrong was a biker, and he's became well known when, from 1999 to 2005, he won the Tour de France every year. Prior to this, he was diagnosed with cancer and several different kinds of cancer, and was treated and made a full recovery. During the time that he was, after he recovered from his cancer, he started the Lance Armstrong Foundation, which was a charity that to help. I'm not sure exactly what it did. I mean, I don't know, because I'm not that concerned about whatever supposed good things he did. Probably just to try to stay out of hell. But anyway, in his heyday, he was very popular. He was involved in like the Live Strong campaign, whatever that is, and he appeared in the movie Dodgeball as himself. And he did some ads. He even thought about running for governor of Texas for a while. Throughout his career, he periodically encountered allegations of doping, despite that he actually did pass 600 blood tests. After he retired in 2005 from biking, the allegations continued periodically, and he would sometimes have to go to court and have battles with people over these allegations. He came back and returned to cycling for some time years later, and then it wasn't until late last year, 2012, when the USADA, that's the anti-doping agency, concluded that Armstrong had used performance enhancers, and they stripped him of his Tour de France victories, which is something they were able to do because the French Cycling Federation is somehow subject to their authority. Somehow. I don't know exactly. And then public opinion turned pretty sharply against Armstrong. Scathing articles about how he duped America were written. He was called a sociopath. He received Anti-Sportsman of the Year from Sports Illustrated. And the nice thing about America is that we don't have anything like some, thirst for blood and vengeance or anything. So we would never, it's not possible to have a situation in which our reaction may be out of proportion with what's necessary. I mean, the fact that we have more prisoners than anywhere else in the world, that doesn't mean that we're spiteful and seek revenge. No, that's not what that means. So anyway, so it's pretty obvious that this Lance Armstrong is just a worm and just a vermin. I mean, to just lie to people all this time, to cheat in this way. I think, and so I'd like to kind of just like marry those words together. We're going to call him a wormin because that's totally what he is. right? This little worm. I mean, he's totally blamed for all of this. I mean, let's go back to the beginning here. I mean, when he started cycling, he passed 600 blood tests, right? Now, the fact that he could use performance enhancers and pass all these tests, I mean, that doesn't mean that the people running the tests were incompetent, or that their tests were incomplete, that they could make something illegal but have no real way to tell whether or not you were doing it. That doesn't make you incompetent. No, that's not what that is. And I mean, the fact that he used blood doping and could pass the test and get away with it, well, that doesn't indicate that any other cyclists would have been doing that. Right? That's just crazy talk. I mean, somebody's willing to spend 6 hours a day on a bike working at winning a world championship in biking. Why, it's certainly not logical to conclude that they might try to gain some extra advantage by using a process which nobody could really test for. That's just completely unrealistic. I'm sure all the other riders were clean. But even if they weren't, let's suppose that they weren't. Observe how Armstrong just did the wrong thing at every turn. I mean, if he was making this many wrong turns out there on the road, it's amazing he'd ever finish a race. But the second he realized that it was necessary to use blood doping or performance enhancers in order to win in a sport where the winner was pretty much going to be somebody who did that, he should have immediately said, forget it, forget the whole thing. I mean, sure, I could make millions of dollars and be admired by millions of people all over the world, but I would have to do something that whoever wins this contest probably will have done anyway. I'm totally going to lay my career down upon the altar of virtue and totally not do that. So that's the first thing he should have done. And the second thing is when somebody started making allegations about him using performance enhancers, I mean, he should totally have just said, oh, yes, of course, I admit I did it. Please take my titles. Take my money. I don't deserve these things. Take them away. Strip me of my dignity. I mean, how could he just think of himself like that? What a selfish little turd burglar. I mean, sure, the people who betrayed his trust to come forward to the media and make these claims about him, I mean, they might have become famous about it and got some publicity, but that didn't have anything to do with it. No, they weren't being selfish. No, that's totally different. And I mean, they had no idea that he was going to try to deny the claim. Who would have thought? I mean, it's unfathomable that he wouldn't have just came clean right on the spot. And I mean, when they contacted him to be in an ad, he should have turned away in shame. No, I can't do it. Can't be on television. I couldn't stand to look at my face. I mean, to think he actually thought about running for governor of Texas. I mean, as if we in America would actually be ever consider electing someone who had used performance enhancers to win some sort of a contest. Well, how did that get in there? I don't know where that came from. Well, all right, fine. That's old lib-turd-infested California. Those Californicators, they might, but in Texas, the governor of Texas would never. I mean, Texas, where men are men, they're never going to allow any dope in the governor's office. Well, okay, there was that. But that was the only time. Alright, well, I don't know how that one got in there either. Apparently somebody has fucked with this presentation. Okay. Who does Lance think he is, running around acting like he accomplished something? I mean, what, because you won a bicycle race where you and probably the other people as well were using performance enhancers? Anybody could have done that. I mean, what does that even mean? You won the Tour de France when people were all using performance enhancers? What would it even mean? It's like, it's not even intelligible. The very notion of a bicycle race between people using performance enhancers, and like, I don't even know what that would be. I mean, who would be the winner? The person with the shortest time or something? It's like, who even knows? But do you know what really got my goat? Do you know what really burned my butt? When he confessed to Oprah, he didn't sound like he was sorry. It was almost like he didn't even regret winning the Tour de France 7 times. It was almost more like he was bitter about the way people had reacted about this and being stripped of his titles. And he reminded me of that little turd wagon Pete Rose. I seen him on Bill O'Reilly's show some years back. Yeah, Pete Rose is on there. And he said, when he said he was sorry for what he had done, he didn't sound like he was really sorry. It was like he didn't view himself as the scourge that he is. It was like he didn't believe that he should live every moment of his existence in shame over betting on that game 30 years ago. I mean, it was almost more like he resented the way everybody had overreacted about it. I mean, the way everybody had reacted about it. And that he thought that he should be somehow relevant to baseball. Anyway, that's sort of what this dick licker Lance Armstrong, the gaytheist, reminded me of. Well, anyway, sorry to get off topic, but some things just needed to be said. I mean, he's getting off on this one way too easy.